All right, we're rolling.
This is the meeting for the Mobile City Planning Commission for Thursday, October 15th, 2020. General procedures for this remote meeting are as follows. I will announce an application for items where no one from the public is attending via Zoom. Staff will give an overview, including any comments received from the public. If a member of the public will attend the meeting, staff will announce their attendance and admit them at this time. Once the parties have joined the meeting, if needed, I will state the commission's rules regarding the number of speakers as well as speaking time. Each application is limited to a maximum of 4 speakers in support and 4 speakers in opposition, limited to 5 minutes each. I will then announce the beginning of the public hearing. The applicant will present their case and up to 3 additional speakers if applicable. For each speaker, at the end of their presentation, I will ask if there are any questions from any commission members. Once the commission concludes their questions of the speakers in support of an application, I will then call for interested parties to speak. At the end of each speaker's presentation, I will again ask if there are any questions from the commission. The applicant will be given an opportunity to rebut in accordance with commission rules, limited to 2 minutes. After the rebuttal, I will declare the public hearing closed and the commission will go into deliberation session. After the commission has rendered a decision, the applicant and concerned parties will leave the meeting or will be sent back to the waiting room by staff where they can disconnect. I will then call the next agenda item. Commission members and staff, please remember to keep your microphones on mute unless you are speaking to the meeting attendees. I'm going to call roll. I'm Libba Latham. Jennifer Denson.
Here.
Cart Blackwell. Cart Blackwell.
Here.
Taylor Atchison.
Here.
Matt Anderson.
Here.
Nick Amberger.
Here.
Bez Rich.
Here.
Don Hembry. Jay Stubbs.
Here.
We have a quorum. The first item, I guess do we need a motion to adopt the agenda?
Yes, ma'am, you do, just because it helps us stay compliant with the governor's proclamations.
Thank you.
I move to adopt the agenda for October 15th Planning Commission.
Second.
All in favor of adopting the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The agenda is adopted. We'll move on to number 1, which is a holdover. Hale Kids subdivision. It is recommended for tentative approval. Ms. Pappas?
Yes, ma'am. I have admitted Jane Hale. It says she's connected to audio, so I'd like for her to have an opportunity to get in.
Okay.
Her video went out. Ms. Hale, can you hear us? Ms. Hale, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, awesome. Ms. Latham, the applicant has now been admitted to the meeting. I don't want to speak for her, but I believe Ms. Hale's concerns pertain to potential needed dedication along both Avalon and Irene Street. Is that correct?
I'm here as the Irene portion of the property, but as the other owner has spoken with the surveyor who relayed that information to you.
Okay.
So,
Ms. Latham, if you want to go ahead and call the public hearing to order, I just wanted to get those details and then I'll provide the commission and Ms. Hale with some additional information.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing portion of the meeting is in order. Ms. Hale?
yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Ms. Hale, could you give your address for the meeting minutes, please?
Yes, ma'am. It's 3521 Irene Street, Mobile 36608.
Okay. Ms. Chairman, as I understand it, there are concerns about staff recommendation for additional dedication. However, just prior to the meeting, we were able to obtain from probate court copies of recorded plats. Can the commission see my cursor here along Irene? There
Yes.
was a subdivision recorded in 1981, and 8.5 feet was dedicated along Irene Street. So there is existing on record 25 feet from the center line of Irene to the front property. We were able to find the same thing along Avalon via a 1955 subdivision plat. Again, there exists currently 25 feet from the front property line as it exists to the center line of Avalon Street. So what this means is the surveyor would need to correct the plat to illustrate this, and then those recommended conditions for number 1 and number 3 are not applicable.
Okay. Is Mr. Erdman joining us today? The surveyor, I have the letter from him.
He is not in the waiting room. He was provided the Zoom link.
So just for my question, Ms. Pappas, is can we entertain this today and make the requirement that he correct the plat, but still go forward with approving it with his corrections, and then everything will be handled administratively?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. And you can leave 1 and 3 in place because it says if applicable. And we have recorded plats that, of course, we'll be happy to send to the surveyor that illustrate there's 25 feet from center line to these property lines.
And then that will address the concerns that Ms. Hale and the other owner have.
I don't want to speak for her, but that means there's no additional dedication needed.
Okay.
The front property lines as they exist would not be altered via this subdivision approval.
Okay. Ms. Hale, did you understand that?
Yes, ma'am. I do, and I think that was in agreement with the owner as far as I can understand. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for joining us today.
Sure.
All right, are there any questions by any commissioners for Ms. Hale? All right, thank you so much, Ms. Hale, for joining us.
I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
You bet, appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, the public hearing portion is going to be closed now, and we'll vote on this. Or does staff have anything else they'd like to address?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
A motion to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Oh,
there-
but don't we need to say striking 1 and 3, condition 1 and 3?
It's really rather moot because it says
Okay.
if applicable, and it's really not.
Okay. So my
Um,
motion stands.
Okay, who seconded that?
I did. I hope it's pretty clear.
All right. Is there any further discussion on this matter? All in favor of approving this
Aye.
application? Any opposed? That motion passes. This application is approved. We will move on to number 2, which is the Arbors of Summerby Park subdivision, addition 2. It's a request for a 1-year extension, and that has been recommended for approval. Is Mr. Graham going to attend, or anyone else, or is there anyone here to address it?
Mr. Graham asked to attend, and I have admitted him into the meeting. It says it's still connecting to audio.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bell.
He is in agreement, however, okay, good. Mr. Graham, can you hear us?
I'm here, got me?
Yes, sir. Okay,
All right, thank you, Mr. Graham. Could I get you to state your address for the record, please? Your name and
It's
address.
6576 Airport Boulevard, Building C, Mobile, Alabama 36608.
Thank you. Would you have any comments to make on your application number 2 for the,
I don't, I mean, I read the staff reports. I'm agreeable if that suits everybody.
okay, thank you. Ms. Pappas, do you want us to take 2 and 3 together since they're asking the same thing?
yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Well, I'm sorry, I'm a little late coming to the party on that one, but Mr. Ruffin, Mr. Graham, we're gonna take number 2 and number 3 together, if that's
Okay.
okay with you.
Good,
And your position on number 3 is the same, that you're in agreement?
yes.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners for Mr. Graham? All right, well, thank you for joining us.
That was fun. That was my first time. I didn't know what I was doing.
You did just fine.
All right, thank y'all.
You're welcome. Thank
Uh,
you.
Take care.
There's nobody else coming in on that one from the public, is there?
That's correct. No one else.
The public portion of that is closed. We're going to go into the deliberation on the numbers 2 and 3 right now. Somebody like to make a motion?
Move to extend for the year with the staff recommendation at the same
Second.
for both.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on those? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes, and that 1-year extension will be granted for both of those items.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
We'll move on to number 4, which is new subdivision application 5530 and 5340 Business Parkway. Staff has recommended tentative approval. Ms. Pappas, do we have anyone attending?
Yes,
Yes, this is Don Williams.
Hello, Mr. Williams. Could you state your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Don Williams, 316 Wacker Lane North, Mobile 36608. Representing Tony Cooper in this case.
Thank you. Do you have any comments you would like to make?
I agree with
this
the staff
application?
recommendations.
Okay. Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Williams? Well, Mr. Williams, thank you for joining us. We'll close the public portion of that now and start the deliberation, excuse me.
Okay.
I would move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Now we will move to number 5, which is 664 Shelby Street. That application has been recommended for tentative approval. Ms. Pappas, is there someone from the public attending this?
No, ma'am, there's not. However, we received confirmation that the engineer, Rowe Engineering, is in agreement with staff recommendation.
Thank you very much. Does the staff have any comment to make on it at all?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Somebody on the commission want to make a motion?
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this application, on this motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. We'll move to number 6, 958 Pinemont Drive. The staff has recommended tentative approval.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
That's okay. I was going to ask you if Mr. Byrd was attending.
Yes, he is. He has some concerns. Jerry, can you hear us?
Yeah, Margaret, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mi-
I'm
Excuse me, Mr. Byrd. Could I get you to state your name and address, please, for our minutes?
Sure. Gerald Bird Surveying Company, 2609 Halls Mill Road, 36608.
Thank you.
806, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
Now you can start talking.
Okay. Our concern was item 3 on the conditions. Other than that, I mean, we're okay with everything except item 3, which is to remove the carport utility building or tear it down, remove it, tear it down, move it over, or go for a board of adjustment. That building has been in existence for maybe not quite that consideration, same size. At one time it was a garage and kind of an open patio area. Now it's a carport utility room, but it's been in existence since 1986. That's 34 years. And the owners could sell an existing lot 3, which I don't know if you can see this or not. It's outlined in blue, the existing 3. That's a legal lot of record, but it doesn't include the extra 25 feet in the rear. And they would like to sell 50 by 125 feet. And going to the Board of Adjustment is another time consuming. It would be all the way down to December the 7th before we'd ever know whether they would allow it or not. And besides the expense of filing that application. But I'd like to ask just to waive requirement number 3 and let's record the plat just showing a 50 by 125 foot lot.
Are there, any of the commission members have questions for Mr. Byrd?
I have a question of the staff.
Go
if
ahead.
It's okay. It pertains to his request. Since it's been sitting there that long, and I realize he's talking about a timeline for getting it on a variance, and no one can guarantee what the board's temperament will be. But if we were to allow this and remove it as a issue, would we be setting something where others would come forward and ask us to constantly do the same with these kind of structures that we all the time ask that they be removed or get a variance on it? It's a pretty standard position because it's been a fairly put into place when it does encroach and become, an issue. So I realize there's a timeline. I don't know when they could have applied, and I guess November is what Mr. Byrd is saying, but it is still something that we do time and time again. We don't normally not include that when it's a noticeable issue.
You're correct, Mrs. Rich. That's a standard requirement. And unless I'm misspeaking, and if so, Doug, please speak up. I don't believe the Planning Commission, while they could allow the subdivision to move forward, they cannot really de novo grant a variance, which is essentially what would be occurring. I understand that the structure has been there. However, it does not attain technical, legal, non-conforming status. that would have to go back to 1967. There is a third option that the staff did not bring up in the report, and that is, and the commission has done this in the past, and that is to shift the lot line along the setback issue far enough to the north to maintain a proper setback.
Barbara, do we know what the distance, I mean, what that would be? I mean, how far is that building off the line right now?
Ms. Amber, the northwest corner of the utility room, which is the closest corner, is 4 feet 8 inches. And it's a little over 5.5, I think, at the northeast corner.
They'd have to shift that line over 5 feet effectively.
Yeah.
Or we have seen it, and it isn't a little unusual, but it has been done. It could be drawn such to maintain an 8-foot setback. So Jerry, you said this is 4 feet 8 inches?
Yes.
So you're
4.7. So yeah, you're looking at 3.3 feet at the back, I believe.
Right, and then angle it to where it maintains 8 feet to this point and then run straight out to the street.
Right. If you could alter that, I mean, I don't have the ability to talk to the owners right now, but if the item 3, condition item 3 would be either like it is or alter the line to allow for an 8-foot side yard along that, put all 4 of those options in item 3, then I would be able to talk to them after the meeting and see if we can go forward that way.
I don't think we can put in that it can stay in the condition it is with the borders set up. That would not be one of the options.
Yep.
But I hear what you're saying. You want to maybe not go to the Board of Adjustment. And if
Right.
they're willing to shift the line to get that proper distance from lot to lot with a structure, then they'll have 2 choices is what we'd be given. But there's not 4 choices. That the way I'm thinking about
Well,
this.
The item 3, condition 3 right now is 3 choices. 1, you can move it. 1, you can tear it down or go to the Board of Adjustment. I was adding number 4, which would be an alteration of the lot line to allow for 8-foot
Okay,
side yard.
I apologize. I hear
Yep.
what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay. I thought you meant that they would have the other option that you requested.
So,
Any
Margaret,
further
did
questions?
y'all have- Yeah, so do we have a, some kind of motion prepared, or will we just make a general motion that, that the lot line would be, 8-foot setback from the existing structure? Because, I mean, it ultimately doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but I mean, if we can just move it over easily, then let's just do that.
Well, that would be one of the options that he's saying he wants to talk to the owner about. Yeah, that's.
Matt, I think the motion would just be modifying note 3 to include a 4th option to allow a 8-foot side setback.
So what I guess what I'm asking is that, so it wouldn't have to come back at any given point. That would just, if they just utilize that option, we'd be good to go.
I think so.
Cool.
Or they could then go back and file a variance and go through that process, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions from the commissioners of Mr. Byrd?
No.
Well, then let's close the public portion of this discussion and move into the deliberation phase. Thank you, Mr. Byrd.
Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion from any of the commissioners?
Move to approve subject to staff recommendation with a modification to note 3, allowing an option of an 8-foot side setback.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Ms. Pappas, that takes us to the end of our agenda.
Yes, it does.
Do you have any further business for us to discuss?
No, ma'am, I do not. Again, I thank the commission for their patience
Thank you.
and attendance.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks, Marla.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.